There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from holding something together that was never meant to hold. For most of my adult life, I was the one who held things together. In my home, when the temperature rose, and it rose often, I was the thermostat. Someone would say something sharp, someone else would react, and before the whole room could catch fire, I'd step in, lower my voice, choose my words carefully, absorb whatever needed absorbing so that, for a little while, there could be peace. I was good at it. I want you to understand that. I was proud of it. In a house that ran on tension, I saw myself as the steady one, the reasonable one, the adult in the room. And I believed, deep down, that if I just kept doing my job well enough, one day the chaos would run out of fuel and we'd finally have the calm I kept manufacturing. That day never came. Understand the chaos, break the pattern, that's what we do here. And today I want to talk about the most disorienting lesson I ever learned, the one that took me almost 20 years to see because I was standing too close to it, too inside it. Let me tell you what my life actually looked like. Picture an ordinary evening. Dinner is on the table. There's a conversation happening, my partner and our adult child talking about something that seems small, a plan that fell through, a comment taken the wrong way, and I can feel it before I can name it, a shift in the air, the temperature dropping, voices getting an edge. I've lived in this house long enough to read the weather, so I do what I always do. I intervene, gently, I redirect the conversation. I offer a softer interpretation of what someone said. I find the reasonable middle. I think what they meant was, let's not make this bigger than it is. Come on, we're all tired. And sometimes it works. The room settles, dinner continues, and I feel that quiet hit of relief, the sense that I've done my job, I've earned the peace. But here's what I couldn't see back then. The peace never lasted, because within a day or a week, we'd be right back at the same table, having a version of the same fight, and I'd be doing the same thing. Stepping in, smoothing over, absorbing. For years, I explained this to myself the way most of us do. I told myself the other people just needed to grow, needed to mature, needed to learn what I already knew about staying calm. I thought I was waiting for them to change. I want to pause the story here, because this is where the first thing I misunderstood lies. I thought I was outside the dysfunction, looking in, the steady observer, the one who wasn't part of the problem, but that's not what I was at all. In psychology, there's a way of understanding families not as a collection of individuals, but as a system, like an ecosystem or a machine, where every part is connected to every other part. It comes from a field called family systems theory. And one of its most unsettling insights is this: a system will fight to stay the same, even a miserable system, even a painful one. The technical word is homeostasis. It's the same principle that keeps your body temperature steady. When something pushes the system off balance, forces rise up to pull it back to its familiar state. Your body does this with heat. A family does this with roles. And in my family, my role had a name, even if I never would have used it. I was the stabilizer, the regulator, the part that absorbed shock. Every time tension spiked, I was there to bleed off the pressure before it could reach a breaking point. Here's the part that took my breath away when I finally understood it. The breaking point was the only thing that could have changed anything. Let me say that again, because it's the whole video. The pressure I kept relieving was the exact pressure that might have forced the system to change. Every time I stepped in and smoothed things over, I wasn't solving the dysfunction. I was maintaining it. I was the release valve that let everyone avoid the consequences of their own behavior. I made the unbearable just bearable enough to continue. I wasn't the thermostat. I was the reason the house never had to fix its own heating. Now, if you've ever been the peacemaker, the fixer, the reasonable one, I need you to hear this the way I wish someone had told me. This is not an accusation. You didn't do something wrong by caring. The instinct to reduce someone's pain is one of the most human things there is. But there's a difference between reducing pain and enabling the thing that causes it. And for years, I couldn't tell them apart. So why do we get trapped here? Why is this role so hard to see, let alone leave? Part of it is that it's genuinely rewarding. When you diffuse a conflict, you get a real hit of relief. Your nervous system calms down, the people around you calm down, it feels like success. And anything that gives us relief, we tend to repeat. Over years, the peacemaker role isn't just a habit, it's wired in, it becomes who we think we are. But there's a deeper reason, and it's harder to admit. For a lot of us, the fixer role started early. If you grew up in a home where the emotional weather was unpredictable, where an adult's mood could turn the whole day dark, you may have learned very young that your safety depended on managing other people's feelings. You became an expert at reading the room because reading the room was survival. And that skill, learned in childhood, doesn't disappear. It just finds new rooms to work in. So when I stepped into my own family's conflicts, I wasn't only responding to that evening. I was running a program installed decades earlier, a program that said, if you can just keep everyone calm, you'll finally be safe. The problem is that the program has no exit. There's no amount of calm that finally completes it. You just keep managing and managing and managing, waiting for a finish line that the system is specifically designed to never let you reach. So let's come back to that dinner table, because I want to show you what changed, and it's smaller than you'd think. There was an evening not unlike 100 others when the temperature started to drop. The edge crept into the voices, and I felt the old instinct rise up in me, step in, smooth it over, find the reasonable middle. My whole body knew the choreography. And for reasons I still can't fully explain, I didn't. I didn't storm out, I didn't lecture anyone, I didn't announce a new boundary or make a speech. I just stayed in my chair and stayed quiet and let the conversation be what it was going to be without me managing it. It was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done. Every cell in my body was screaming to intervene. The silence where my usual peacemaking should have been felt enormous, like a missing stair. And yes, the conflict got sharper for a minute. Without the release valve, the pressure rose. But then something happened that had never happened in 20 years. The two of them had to deal with each other, directly, without me in the middle translating, softening, absorbing. It was awkward, it was clumsy, but it was theirs. For the first time, the discomfort of their conflict landed on the people who were actually in it, instead of on me. That's the moment I understood what I now think of as the pattern interrupter. You cannot change a system from inside your assigned role. As long as you're playing your part, the system uses your part to stay the same. The peacemaker's peacemaking, the scapegoat's blame, the caretaker's caretaking, each role is a gear, and the machine runs on all of them turning. The only way to interrupt the pattern is to stop turning. Now I want to be very careful here, because this is where people misunderstand the lesson. Interrupting the pattern does not mean cutting people off. It doesn't mean walking out on your family, or punishing anyone, or slamming a door and calling it growth. Exiting the role is not the same as exiting the relationship. What I exited was the job, the unspoken assignment to be responsible for everyone else's emotional state. I stopped being the thermostat. I let people feel the temperature of their own choices. And here's what makes this so hard and so important. When you stop playing your role, the system doesn't thank you. At first, it does the opposite. It pushes back harder. This is that homeostatic resistance I mentioned, and you'll feel it directly. People may accuse you of not caring, of changing, of abandoning them. They may escalate precisely because escalation used to work. It used to summon you back into your role. When the old button stops producing the old result, the instinct is to press it harder. If you don't understand what's happening in that moment, you'll cave. You'll think, see, me stepping back made things worse, I need to go back to fixing. But that pushback isn't proof you were wrong. It's proof the system was depending on you exactly as much as you feared. The resistance is the withdrawal symptom of a system that ran on your participation. So what does this actually look like in practice? Let me make it concrete, because I don't believe in advice you can't use. First, learn to tell the difference between support and absorption. Support is helping someone carry something that's theirs. Absorption is taking it off them entirely so they never have to feel its weight. Support sounds like, that sounds hard, I'm here. Absorption sounds like you, at midnight, fixing a problem that was never yours to fix. The moment you notice you're the one losing sleep over someone else's conflict, you're absorbing. Second, let people have their own discomfort. This one is brutal for fixers, so I'll be direct. When two other adults are in a conflict, it is not your job to resolve it for them. Their discomfort is information they need. It's the very thing that might motivate them to change. Every time you rush in to relieve it, you're stealing the lesson their pain was trying to teach them. Third, when you step back, expect the pushback and don't mistake it for failure. Decide in advance. The resistance is the system, not the truth. You can be warm about it. You don't have to be cold or dramatic. You can say gently, I think you two can work this out, and then, this is the hard part, actually let them. And fourth, maybe the most important one, understand that not taking responsibility for someone's emotions is not the same as not caring about them. This is the false choice that keeps us trapped. We think the only alternative to managing everyone is abandoning everyone. It isn't. You can love people completely and still refuse to be the load-bearing wall that lets them avoid their own growth. In fact, stepping back is often the most loving thing you can do, because it finally treats the other people as capable adults. Instead of fragile children you have to protect from every gust of wind. So let me leave you with the thing I keep coming back to. For 20 years, I thought I was trying to fix my family. I thought I was the solution working against the problem, but I wasn't working against the pattern. I was the pattern, one of its most reliable parts. And nothing changed until I did the one thing the system never accounted for. I stopped. There's an old idea that you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. I'd put it a little differently. You can't change a system while you're still one of the pieces holding it in place. Sometimes the only way to chain the machine is to become the part that stops turning and to have the courage to sit through the terrible, hopeful silence that follows. The chaos in my home didn't vanish overnight. That's not how this works. But for the first time in 2 decades, it wasn't my chaos to hold anymore. And in the space where my constant fixing used to be, something new finally had room to grow. If any of this landed somewhere real for you, if you recognized yourself in that chair, holding a room together that was never yours to hold, then you already understand more than I did for most of my life. Stay with this channel. We're going to keep making sense of the chaos together, one pattern at a time. Because understanding what was really happening is the first step to no longer being trapped inside it.